In today's tutorial, I am going to be decorating my little mini album folio base with the Mintay Papers Lighthouse collection. I will be mostly using this 6x8 add-on paper pack, but I also have the 12x12 collection, so I will have the fussy cut sheet from that and some of the other pieces, but this is the piece I'm going to be featuring mainly in my album. Now, if you are using a different paper collection, you can just get the sizes of your papers and follow along and try to find some similar pieces in your collection to go ahead and mimic the look that I am doing with my album. The first thing I'm going to be doing is adding a ribbon closure. I like ribbon closures on my album, so I'm going to be putting the ribbon closure off to the side here, but then I'm also going to be placing magnets here so that this will stay together with a magnet as well. Now, if you don't like the ribbon closure, you could actually add a closure piece from the back that comes up this side and have a magnet come on to the front here and have it be like a clasp opening if you would prefer to do that. What I did, I marked the center on both the front and back cover of my little album here, and I am putting some Fabric Fusion right here on my cover, and then I have 12 inches of ribbon. I'm using some Graphic 45 ribbon in this really pretty blue stripe, but this is discontinued, so you're not likely to find this ribbon unless you already have it in your stash, but you can use any type of ribbon that matches the collection. Once I have that side put on, I'm going to turn over and add my adhesive here to the back side. And then I'm going to place my ribbon here on the back side. And I like to just bring them up in the middle to make sure that they are meeting pretty evenly. Even though I have it marked in the center, I want to make sure that it is still centered on there. Now I'm going to flip back over to my front, and for the front, I've taken this piece here of the 6x8 add-on paper. I first cut this to 6 1/4 inches, and then I've trimmed it here to 4 1/4. And this piece is going to go here on the front cover. Now from this side piece here, I did save that side piece, and I've cut 2 pieces to 1/2 inch by 6 1/4. And these pieces are going to go here on my little side panels to have that continuous pattern. Then for the back side and the left spine, I have this piece here that I have cut. And so it was this way. I've cut the bottom portion of the paper, so I actually saved the strip at the top because I was able to save most of these pieces that I can still fussy cut and use. So now I have this paper, and I have cut this to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and this is 1 3/8 by 6 1/4. It's going to go on my spine, and then this piece is going to go on the back panel. Once I have all of the paper on the outside of my folio, I'm going to come to the inside. That way it is flat while I am decorating instead of being lumpy from the decorations on the front cover. Now I'm taking this piece here, and I have cut this to 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And this is going to go here. I did put some magnets here in the center, and my magnets are a little bit thicker. They're smaller, but they're thicker than I normally use. And I have these because that space between my 2 pieces here, whenever that is connected, when it's the thicker magnets, it will actually connect a little bit easier because there's more space here. The thinner magnets might not actually catch, so I'm using my thicker magnets here. So I'm going to take this piece and place it here. Again, it's cut to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Then I've cut a piece here off the side, the continuing part of the pattern. This is 3/8 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to be placing this here on this little piece on this side. Then for this side, I have taken the Lighthouse paper and I've cut this to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. It's going to go here. Then I've got this piece that's 3/8 by 6 1/4 and it is going to go here. And then I have this piece that was left over from the edge and it is going to be 1 3/8 by 6 1/4. I'll be placing it here in the center. Now you could have used either of the pieces. You could have used the continuation of this piece or the one that I'm using here, and I just preferred the look of this one. I've taken one of these pieces, and this is from the 12 by 12 cut apart sheet, and I'm just going to be adhering it down here as a little bit of extra decoration. Once I have these two covers on, I am going to come inside and I'm going to place some papers in the 4 areas on each side where just the photo is going to go. So rather than have my Mintay papers completely covered by photos, I'm just using white cardstock. I also like to have my photos with a white border around them matted with this, so that's why I'm doing this. Now, if you don't like the look of this, you can add Mintay papers to all of these, especially if you're not planning on putting photos in it, but I'm going to be putting my white cardstock. So I have 8 pieces cut to 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. I'm going to be placing one here on both sides, and they're going to be in the same place on every one of these on both sides. So I've got one here, then I will have one here. I'm going to fold this one down and place one here, and then I'm going to fold this flap up and I'm going to be placing one there. So I've got my 4 for each side. I'll go ahead and add those in, and then I'm going to be adding some decorative elements to each of these to bring in the Lighthouse papers to make it more decorative and more embellished. Once I have my full-size photo mats in, I'm going to be placing some photo mats for my waterfall. Now, I'm not going to place a white photo mat here on the front of my waterfall, but I am going to be placing them on the other flaps. So I have 8 of my white photo mats here that they measure 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. So I'm going to take these and I'll be placing this one here, and I'm going to be placing it at the bottom of my waterfall flap here and leaving a space here for decorative paper. Then on this one, I'm going to place the picture at the top of the flap and leaving the bottom open. Then the same thing here, I'm going to place my photo mat at the bottom, and then I'm going to take this one and I'm going to place it at the top here. Now, if you do not like the look of this side by side like this, you can bring this down here and you can leave a small space like this between your photos, just like you'd see here when you have this one and this one with that small space here. And I think I'm actually going to leave that space. So I'm going to put the edge of my white paper here at the edge of that space so that I can then add a strip of paper here, and then I'll have this open as well. So I've got 4 for this side and 4 for this side, and I'm going to go ahead and put those on next. Once I have the white photo mats on my waterfall, I'm going to then come back here to this flap. I'm going to start decorating with this paper first. I've cut this across the top to 6 1/4 inches. Then I just cut it in half, so I have 2 3-inch pieces. I'm going to set one aside for now. Taking this piece, I'm going to tuck it here into my pocket and put it just like this to cover this part of my page. I'm going to take this second side and do the same thing on this side. Once this paper's on, I'm going to be putting paper here, but I have to place a magnet first because I want this flap here to actually close on this so that it doesn't go a little bit too far this way. I want it to be nice and tight. But I also don't like to put magnets underneath where photos are going to go. So what I'm going to be doing here, I've cut a piece of this paper here. It was the leftover strip of paper that we had from decorating previously. So it was a 2-inch strip or 1 3/4 inch strip cut from one of the papers. And now I've cut this to 4 3/8 of an inch, which is the size of my flap. If you kept your flap 4 1/2, then you'd cut it that way. And I'm going to be placing this here. Now that photo is still going to be able to tuck underneath of it, but this is going to hide my magnet as well. I've also cut this piece. So I have this strip of paper that I had left over, or you can cut something from the 12 by 12 sheet that has all those fussy cut pieces. You just want something a little bit larger like this, because what I'm going to do is take one of my magnets and I'm going to be placing this strip here first, and then I'll place my magnet and have this here to cover my magnet like that, so you won't know it's there and the photo won't be between those two magnets. Now, in order to accomplish this, what I'm going to do first is take my little piece, and it's actually a 1/2 inch wide. My magnet is about 3/8 of an inch, so I cut this to a 1/2 of an inch. And I'm just adding a little tiny bit of adhesive to each of my sides of my piece. And then I'm going to adhere this about a 1/2 inch up from the bottom edge of the white photo mat. And it's actually going to be adhered down to that cardstock, my craft cardstock, instead of the white photo mat cardstock. Once I have that on, I am going to take my double-sided tape next for my magnet. I'm going to take this piece first just to kind of eyeball and see where I'm going to put it. So it's going to be right about here. Then I'm going to add my magnet here. And then I'm going to put my piece back on just to get an idea about where I need to apply my adhesive to the band. So what you see is I have my adhesive here and on the magnet, and then I'm going to take my piece, set it down, and then I'm going to curve this piece around where the magnet is to enclose that magnet in the paper. And then we're going to take a second magnet and attach it there, and another piece of my double-sided tape. Once I have the backing off of my tape, I'm going to make sure all of this stuff is, so basically this one has to be straight, and I need to make sure that when I take this one over, everything lines up straight here as well. Then I'm going to press down here to place my magnet correctly there. Then I've taken a piece of paper, and it's this paper here. Oh, maybe it goes this way. So I've taken this paper. I've cut this so that's 6 1/4 inches. So I've cut the top off, and then I've cut this piece to 1 3/4 and this piece to 1 3/4. And I'm going to be using these two pieces. So I'm going to switch them over this way so that I have that white at the top of the pocket opening. And I'm going to place this one here to cover that magnet. I'll do the same thing with this one on this side here. And I'm going to do the same thing with this, but I'm going to put a different piece on. So I'm actually going to come back and show you what I'm going to do for the other side. Now for this side, I have another piece of that same paper cut to a 1/2 inch by 4 3/8. And I'm going to be putting it up here at the top instead of at the bottom. If you want to put your piece at the bottom, you just have to make sure that your magnets don't actually repel each other when these flaps are closed, because it'll actually make it a little harder to meet for the pieces to close, because they'll try to repel each other because they would be in the same place. So I am going to just be putting mine here at the top, and then I have the captain's hat that I have cut from the fussy cut sheet that I'm going to be using. So just like on the other side, I'm going to start by adding my adhesive to the ends of my paper strip. And then I'm going to adhere this up here, making sure that I have the ends of the paper with the adhesive on the craft cardstock instead of the white photo mat, so that I can slide my photo up underneath of it. And then I'm going to take my double-sided tape and place a piece there with my first magnet here, and then I'll add a second piece on here. Then I'm going to eye where my hat's going to go so that I know where to place my adhesive here. And then I will place the hat and adhere it to that band of paper. And I'm making sure that the hat doesn't go off the top edge of the paper. So I did tilt mine just slightly. And you want to think about that when you're placing the band. You could place it down lower if you wanted this to be down a little bit lower on your photo mat. Now, once the hat is on, I'm going to go ahead and place my second magnet. And then I'll take a second piece of my double-sided tape. And then I'm going to close this flap to place that correctly. And next I will take this piece here and cover that magnet. Next, I have taken my 12 by 12 sheet with all the little cards on it, and I've cut some of them individually, and I've kept 2 of them together as little booklets. I'm going to show you these first, and then you can decide if you want to follow how mine is or do your own thing. I have this one, and this one I'm going to put here in this pocket, and I might come back later and actually add some cardstock to them to make photo mats, but for now I'm just going to tuck them there. This one I have that I'm going to use on the front of my waterfall flap. And then this one here I have left together. I scored it down the center to create a little booklet. And I am going to place this one here in this pocket for now. Then for this side, I have this one, and this one that I am going to tuck here into my pocket. This one is going to go on the front of my waterfall flap. This one I've kept together, scored down the center to make that little booklet or that card, and I'm going to tuck it here into this pocket for now. For the front of the waterfall, I have taken this paper here. It was one of the Lighthouse papers, and I have cut this so that it is 4 1/4 inches wide, and I've just cut it straight down the whole entire page. Then I've cut this to 5 1/4 inches, and I'm going to place this here on the front of the waterfall. Then I've taken the next piece and cut 1 inch and 1 inch, and I've left them in order because I'm going to place this one here, and then the next one here to create that continuous pattern. Once I have all these on, I've got my card here. I'm just going to set it in the center. I'm going to make mine removable, so you can pull this out and put a photo on the back side. Then you can place the photo this direction if you want to as well, or you have the pretty paper showing. If you want to attach this down and not have it be removable, that is okay to do too. I've taken my cut apart sheet from my little paper collection. I've cut the starfish from here and the flower cluster from here. I'm starting with the starfish first, and what I'm doing is I'm placing this on the center, and I'm going to put my starfish here first so that 4 of these sides are actually away from the paper, from the card, but not going over top the top edge or the side edge, because I want to be able to adhere this down and have this tuck all the way up into this as a like stopper. So once I have this in place, I'm going to just very lightly trace around a few of these places so that I can get this right back in the correct position. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put adhesive on the pieces that I know are not going to touch the card. This one isn't going to have any, and this one's just going to have a little bit on the tip in this outer edge. And then I will take this, excuse my head for a moment. Then I'm going to set this back down, press everything onto the paper, remove this to make sure nothing sticks to it if this spreads out a little bit too much. And once that's on, I can then go ahead and tuck this card back up into there. And now I have my flower piece. I'm going to have my flower piece actually hanging down off of the end of my flap to give some decoration to the other 2 flaps as well. I want to make sure that the edge of my piece doesn't go over the edge of my paper here. And I don't want to cover too much of my design. That's why I don't want it to be like this. I'm going to rotate this until I like the look of it. So I'm going to put mine here just like that. And then I'm going to, again, just trace a little bit of this so that I know where to lay my piece down. And on this one, I need to only put this on the center section. I'm going to move this out of the way first. I don't want any glue at the bottom. So just on this center piece here. Once I have that, I will turn this around. And now I need to make sure that I put this back where it was. So I have to line this up exactly how I had it. Once I put this on, I am going to lift mine up this way as I put it on just to make sure that I didn't, and I actually didn't, which is good, but I didn't get any adhesive on the bottom part that shouldn't go on these flaps because I don't want to adhere it down to the lower flaps. Then I'll go ahead and use my bone folder just to make sure that this is adhered really well. And then I can take this and slide it right up into here like that. And also making sure that it doesn't get glued in there in any way. I'm going to remove it for now and let this completely dry before I put it back in. Next, I've cut pieces for here and here. I've actually taken the strip of paper that was left over from this. I had that piece over here. I've cut this to 1/2 inch by 6 1/4, and I'll place this in this little space here. And then this one is 3/8 by 6 1/4, and I'm going to place this one here. Now, the nice thing about these papers is it actually is the same paper that's on the spine here, so you will see that continuation. Before you flip anything open, you'll see it'll look like the same piece. Now to balance over here, I'm going to add another strip of this paper. So I have the same exact paper. It's actually from a different strip though that I have cut off from a different piece, but I've taken the same color of it basically. So I tried to make sure to get the darker parts, and this is cut to 4 3/8 by 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to adhere the sides of this piece down just like we did on the other side and try to get this to be pretty even overall. So if I look at it here, just eyeing it, this looks like it's pretty even. You could measure this if you want it to be perfect, but I'm going to just go ahead and make sure that the ends are adhered down to the cardstock so that the photo can slide underneath of it. And then I have this little piece that I've cut from my cut apart sheet. No magnet on this one, so I'm just going to add some adhesive here on my band and place my piece right down over top, making sure that it doesn't hang off the end of the page. Now to start with the front of my flap, I've taken this paper here and cut so that I have this compass piece on the top portion. I cut it first to 4 1/4 down the length of the page. Then I cut this to 5 1/4 and it's going to go here. And then these are cut to 1 inch each. And this one's going to go here. And then this one is going to go here. Now, just like the other side, I'm going to take my card. I have one of my flower pieces that I have cut from the cut apart sheet here. I'm going to use it on this bottom left corner this time. And then I have this seashell piece that I'm going to use up here in this corner. So first I'm going to put that in the center and make sure that my flower piece doesn't hang over the edges at all. And I'm just going to rotate this until I like the look of the piece. So I think I'm going to do mine like this, right in here. And I'm going to take my pencil right in here, like that. And I'm going to just put my adhesive here in that center piece, leaving the top open for my card to slide under, and the bottom open because I don't want to adhere it to these bottom 2 flaps. So I'm going to double check and make sure my adhesive is okay. And then I'm going to burnish this down. I'll tuck my card back onto my page and set this one down next. And this one's going to have adhesive across this top portion and this right portion. And then I'll just place it here and burnish it down. So now I can take my card out. If I want to place a photo on it, and once a photo is on it, I can place it this direction so you can see the photo. Or I can leave it this direction so you have the decorative paper showing. Now, just like on the opposite side, I'm going to come over here. I have another piece of that same paper. It's cut to 4 3/8 by 1/2 inch. And I'm going to be putting it here. Looks like I need to trim it just a little tiny bit more. So I'm going to put it up here. And then I have the little tiny bottle that I'm going to place here like this. So first I just need to trim a little tiny bit off of the end of there. And then add my adhesive to each of these ends. I'm going to try to line it up with the piece on the opposite side, making sure the ends are adhered down to that cardstock on the sides of the white photo mat. Then I'm going to put this one here So I'll just add my adhesive onto my little blue strip and place this here. And we've got these two areas. I've got that same paper that I was using before, cut to 1/2 inch by 6 1/4 for this side, 3/8 of an inch by 6 1/4 for this side. Next, I'm going to be adding strips here. So I've cut this paper. It is the back cover from my 6x8 add-on paper pad. I've cut these two pieces, so they are 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. I have two of them. I'm going to set them aside. So the first thing I did was I cut my paper 4 1/4 by the whole 8 inches. Then I've cut these two pieces to 2 1/4. And then I have cut from the remaining piece after that, I cut 3 pieces that are 4 1/4 by 1 inch. Then the strip running down the side, I cut a 4th piece that measures 4 1/4 by 1 inch. Now I'm going to take one of these pieces and place it here, and another one and place it here. And I'm going to do that also on the opposite side. Then for these pieces in the center here, I've taken this paper here. It had like wood grain on the back of it. It was a leftover strip from a previous cut that we had made, and it was the one that had some little fish on the side. So I believe it might have been the remaining piece from this paper here. So we cut the sides and there was a strip, I think, in the center, or it might have been the one across the top. So I've cut this to 4 1/4 by 3/8 of an inch, and I'm going to place one here and one here. And I've cut 2 more for the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and put all of these papers on, then come back and add some decorations to these waterfall flaps. So I've cut all of these pieces from the fussy cutting sheets from either the 12x12 paper pad or the 6x8 paper pad, and you can use whatever pieces you want if you don't like the ones I've chosen. I have this one first, and I'm going to place it up here on the top, and I'm only going to be adhering this top portion down. So I'm applying the adhesive to the top and not to the bottom, and then I'm going to place it mostly in that blue paper area, just a little bit on top of the white photo mat, but it's not adhered down so that the photo can slide up underneath of it and it doesn't cover a lot of my photo. Now I'm going to be taking the little cat and I'm going to be placing him down here, but I want this to be covered. I guess it won't matter because this is on here. I don't want to see the bottom of my cat poking out from below the flap. So I'm only going to be applying adhesive to the bottom portion of the cat. And then just like with the one at the top, I'm placing it down here on the paper. And the part that is over top of the white mat will not be adhered down, so that photo can slide behind it. Then for the flap up here at the top, I have one of my little circular pieces with the ship. I'm going to be placing it now on this side. So I'm just going to adhere a little bit at the top and placing it here. Then for the bottom, I have this piece, and I'm going to actually place it in the center across this row. So I'm going to be very careful and only apply my adhesive to the bottom half of this piece, and then set this down in the center. Now for the other side, I've got that ship piece again, and I'm going to be placing a half of the ship piece, the top portion, on here, just like this. Then I have my anchor piece that I'm only going to be adhering the bottom portion of my anchor. And then I'm going to close this, and I'm good on the anchor. because that's where the flowers are. So I can adhere this right down here. And then for this one, I have my little ship in a bottle, and I'm going to place it here in the center. So I'm going to only adhere down this top portion. And then down here at the bottom, I have the newspaper with the binoculars, and I'm only adhering down this bottom portion down here. And I'm going to make sure that when I close this, it is not peeking out below that flap, so you can't see it until you open the flaps. Next, I'll be starting on the piece with the belly band. I have first taken this paper here. It had the cut aparts on it from my 6x8 add-on papers. I've cut across the top, I cut 6 1/4 inches, and then I've cut 4 pieces to 1 1/4. And these are just going to tuck here on the inside of my belly band like this. I've got these two for the other side. And then here I've taken this paper and I've cut this one to 6 1/4 inches. And then these are 1 3/4 inches. So they're going to go here, excuse me, in the center of the belly band. And then I've taken these two from my 6x8 add-ons and cut those apart. And I'm going to place one of these on the center of each belly band. Once these papers are on, I've taken this remainder paper and I've cut it into 4 pieces that measure 4.5 by 1/2 inch. I'm going to be adding these here just like I did here. I'm going to add one here, and then I have my captain's hat here. I'm going to add down here onto my band, only adhering down the bottom portions. And then I have up here, I'm going to flip this. And I'm going to add this band up here at the top. And then for this one, I have my seahorse, and I'm going to make sure that it doesn't go over the top of my flap, and I'm going to adhere it here. Then for the opposite side, I have 2 more pieces, and I've cut this and this, and I'm going to put these 2 on these bands, 1 on each side, just like I did for these ones. So this is what my top portion looks like on the second one, and this is what my bottom one looks like. Then we're going to focus here on this base part of our page. Now we've already cut these pieces previously, so I have 2 of these that are set aside. This is going to go here like this. I have the ship wheel here with the anchor, and I'm going to be placing this here in the center of this one. And for the other side, I have my lighthouse, so I'm going to set that aside. Then for up here, I've cut this paper to 4 1/4 by 8 inches. Then I've cut it in half at 4 inches, and I am going to take this paper here, and it just fits right inside of here, barely tucking into that pocket. So that is going to be the base of the page, and this is going to be for the other side, and then this little insert will go back in there. Now, once the base of the page is decorated, you can go ahead and start folding this back up. You can make an insert for here out of cardstock, or you can take one of these little cards here and place under here if you choose, whatever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and fold this up, and then I'm going to come in here. I'm going to close my album and tie my bow. And the last thing I'm going to do is add the embellishments to my front cover. The first thing I'm going to add to my front cover is one of these seagulls that I fussy cut. I'm popping its wings up like this, and right where the seagull is cut off here, that's where I'm going to be adhering this one down, covering that up. So I'm just going to apply my adhesive to the body of my seagull and then placing it right here at the edge of my cover, so the whole entire thing is on the front cover. Then I have a flower here. These are 49 Market flowers in cornflower, and these came from Scrap and Crate from a different album that I made a while back that I had left over in my stash. So I'm going to use this and these, and I'm going to be placing those down here in this bottom corner. And I've got some other pieces that I'm going to layer up underneath of it. So I have this flower piece here. I'm going to tuck under this flower. So I want to be able to see these more like the burgundy colored flowers just to give it some contrast. Then I'll take these and place these back where they were. And then I have my little chipboard anchor here. If you don't have the chipboard pieces, you can always cut one of the anchors from the cut apart sheets. And I'm actually going to layer this with the flowers. And then I have a shell piece here too that I'm going to layer up in here as well. And then I have this compass piece that I'm going to place in the center of my spine. And then I might come back and add a few pearls as well. I did add a couple of pearls to the front cover just so that they would match the pearls that I put on my chest. Now I'm going to go ahead and let everything dry on my album, and this is my finished project. So I hope you have found this tutorial to be helpful, whether you're using the Lighthouse papers like I am or you're using a different collection. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.